Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Once there was a reindeer named Rudolph. Rudolph. He lived at the North Pole in Toyland. He was younger and smaller than the other reindeers there. They all had proud, tall antlers, but Rudolph's antlers were only teeny tiny stubs. Worst of all, he had a nose that it was big and bright red. It was so red it glowed in the dark. Poor Rudolph, he wanted to be like the other reindeer in Toyland. No, oh, to have a small brown nose instead of a big bright one. The other reindeer made fun of Rudolph and called him names. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, they teased over and over again until tears glistened on Rudolph's large red nose. Sometimes the other reindeer made a circle around Rudolph and sang, red nose, a funny sight, big as an apple and twice as bright. They kicked up snowballs with their tiny hooves and covered Rudolph with a blanket white of fluffy snow. All reindeer loved to play games. They played tree tag and snow slides of tumble bones. But Rudolph was never asked to play. He stood behind a pine tree and watched. He was very lonely. Rudolph couldn't even play hide and seek with the rabbits. His glowing red nose gave him away every single time. Before Christmas Eve, Santa's elves posted a sign on gate of Toyland. Santa's team choosing time. The sign said. All the reindeer were asked to line up at 8 o'clock in the meadow. Santa Claus was coming to choose the team that would deliver presents to every good boy and girl in the world. The reindeer fairly danced with excitement when they heard the news. They pranced, tossed their antlers, and pawed the snowy ground with hooves. Each reindeer hoped he would chosen a guide Santa's sleigh. It was the greatest honor a reindeer could ever ask. Rudolph sighed. He was ashamed to have Santa see his bright red nose, so he decided to hide. At 8 o'clock, when all the other reindeer has gone to the meadow, Rudolph stayed behind the holly edge. His bright red nose blended with the bright red berries, and the thick glow leaves canceled the rest of them. No one would have found him here. In the meadow, all the reindeer in Toyland, except for Rudolph, stood in line while Santa expected them. Santa chose carefully and fastest and the strongest and the best deer would do. I think Dasher will be fine, he said with the biggest reindeer. Dasher wrote his elf assist in the book, and Dasher is the strongest, said Santa's pulling beard. Dancer, wrote the elf. Ho, ho, I see, continued Santa. Here's Prancer, and here's Vixen. They make the smoothest landing on the roof. Comet is the fastest, and Cupid is the most sure-footed, said Santa. I picked them. and last. Santa, said Santa, I choose Donner and Blitzen. They best twisting all over the trees tops and skinny over the telephone poles. The reindeer in Santa's team were very happy. They rubbed noses. They danced and clicked their antlers together. Even the reindeer who weren't chosen were given good jobs. One was try to electric the trains. Other was continued Christmas kittens. The only reindeer without a job was Rudolph. He wanted to help, but knew he would have been laughed at. He stayed hidden behind the holy hedge. The last was Christmas Eve. Santa's elves were busy packing the sleigh. I don't care if they make fun of me, said Rudolph suddenly. I want to help too. He dashed from the hiding place behind the hedge and went to find Santa. There must something I can do to help, he decided. The night was bitter, cold, and terrible fog covered all the earth. Santa's elves kept bumping into each other as they hitched up the team. They could hardly see as they put on each bright red harnesses to tie the jingles. To make the matters worse, Dasher and Dancer were fighting on who is in the lead reindeer. I was chosen first, Dasher stamping angrily. But you always trip all over the moon, said Dancer, kicking falling the stars. Even Santa was crossed. We'll never get there if you two don't stop fighting, he said. And where is my Christmas list? Dash it all. I can't even see a thing in this fog. Just then, a soft glowing light in the snow. Thank goodness, said Santa, suddenly jolly again. I found my list. Ho, ho. It must be tucked in my belt. Who brought the fine lantern? Asked Santa. I must take it with me. Why is this perfectly... Why? I can see perfectly now. It's not a lantern, said Rudolph, trembling. The light comes from my nose. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, said Santa. I'm certainly glad to see you. Your light will guide my sleigh tonight, and I appoint you head my team in number of one of the reindeers. Rudolph held his head high, proudly to prance into the front of the team. All the other reindeer bowed. Donner and Dancer helped Rudolph put on his harness, and Cupid gave it a beautiful spring of holy berries. Then, down through the clouds and over the sleeping houses, Santa and his team flew in the foggy Christmas Eve. The landing of the whole procession was Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer. So, if you could see a glow soft in the sky on Christmas Eve, you can sure that Rudolph, the most famous reindeer of all, is very near. That end.